Really?
Yeah, one day he'll be like 40 and he's got kids. He's like,
Holy
shit, how did Dad do this? Why not? Now I know the answer. Why not? So that's pretty special. So how many miles overall did you guys add them up? How many miles you guys drove?
I didn't. It was the intent. And you know how it is. About 3-4 states in it, and you forget to log your miles, or you forget to log how much you filled up, and it goes out the window.
Yeah.
So I have no idea how many miles to go. However, I think my truck has right around 30,000 miles right now, and that's with all the other driving I've done since the trip. So I would estimate 8,000 to 9,000 miles throughout the entire trip.
That doesn't seem that bad. I mean, really, it doesn't. I'd put six.
Consider going to Alaska.
I'm trying to think. I put 6,000 or 7,000 on in hunting season last year.
Yeah.
So that doesn't, in the scheme of things, that doesn't seem terrible.
You're not good.
No, it was a lot of trips to the farm.
Still haven't killed.
And it's January. Still doing it.
I need 2 more months here. Jimmie, as you look back, is there anything that you would have done differently about the trip?
You know what? I would have ate, less ice cream or less junk food.
No, that's not going overboard.
I was wearing sweats. I did not put on a pair of jeans. I put out to wear regular pants.
It's 100 degrees out. It's August.
Milk was a bad idea. Unreal. Did you guys keep? I know you didn't keep track of miles, but did you keep track of how many fish you caught?
We didn't. As long as we caught a bass in every state, that's all we're concerned about. And we caught several bass in every state. And other than that, I caught lots of fish. So, like I said, we tried to have an experience.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the sketch fish getting the and lead. I think we spent a week in Iowa. We actually spent a week in Georgia. We spent 4 or 5 days in Las Vegas once we got to Nevada there. And New York, we spent a couple of days. California, we spent a couple of days. So yeah, it wasn't just like the sketch a fish and leave. We actually had quite a lot of fun in every single state.
So you said you caught the most fish in Alaska. What state did you have the best experience, or the best fight with a fish, or the biggest fish, or was there a certain state that stood out outside of Alaska for the most fish?
I think Alabama. Isaac got to meet, other than Kevin up in Michigan, he got to meet Mr. Boy Duckett, Ryan Saltzman. Ryan Saltzman is one of the AMF guys down there, has his own fishing boat. We actually sponsored Ryan on some of his events. And so Ryan took him out to Garnersville. Garnersville is a destination for Alabama, known for the big bass and the population of the bass there. And this was Isaac's first time meeting Ryan and getting on his boat, and Ryan taking him out and showing him a great time on Garnersville. And like I said, then the combination of meeting Boy Duckett there, the owner of Duckett Rods, which Isaac uses quite often. So I think, and so Isaac and the camera guy were eating up with bed bugs at one of the hotels in Alabama as well. So that we'll never forget that. I won't say it was a great experience, but it was a first for a lot of us.
Sure. So how about some advice? Like if there's a dad listening out there right now and they're thinking, oh, this sounds like a cool, like kind of like a rite of passage experience for my son or daughter, what advice would you give them to put together, whether it's as big as what you did or maybe not quite as big, but what advice would you give them?
Well, you touched on it a while ago. The kids aren't going to be kids forever. And when they grow up, these days are gone. So it's hard for me to give advice from the position that I'm in. However, what I want everyone to know is that I was not always able to do something like this. But I always said, if I am ever able, I will make it happen. I will not say no and use no as an excuse. I will definitely do whatever is in my power for my son. However, this ended up being for my son and actually for the entire crew. The entire crew was just as grateful as well, because they wouldn't have had the opportunity to visit 50 states and fish 50 states and have an experience in 50 states as well. However, as far as collateral, it came with the territory, I should say. if it's in your power, if you have the means to make your kid smile, to make your kid happy, there's absolutely no reason not to.
Yeah.
I think it could be something as simple as buying them a fishing pole and spending time with them going to the local fishing hole. I mean, it's something as simple as that, making memories, getting them off a screen.
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't have to be as elaborate, but just to spend the time. It could be anything, shooting your bow, playing catch, anything. That's what I notice with the kids. It doesn't take much. They just want your time, undivided attention of your time.
Yeah. And I mean, we have an epidemic in our country right now of kids who are isolated from their parents, and we see some of the, the symptoms of that coming out in the national news. And I think we can't have too much of parents pouring into their kids. Like, there's just no such thing as too much of that. And it's just great, Jimmie, to see you doing this, because it would be so much easier for you to say, oh, you know how much it's going to cost me, or you know how much time that's going to be. And even if it is, Matt, something as simple as just taking your kid down to the local pond or something, like these moments, these adventures that you have with your kids are so powerful. And I mean, they literally change the way their brains are rewired, and change the way they relate to other people, and help them be more compassionate, and open and expand their horizons, help them see things from other people's perspectives. Those are all powerful experiences.
Right. And I noticed that when we get to an area and the fishing wasn't that good, I think we have to work a lot harder for the fishing. The places where we went, and you catch a fish every cast. Yeah, it was fun for the first 5 or 10 minutes, but then it's okay. But I had fun everywhere. Isaac had more fun to where he actually had to learn to put his fishing skills to the test, or figuring out which bait to use, whether they're biting, figuring out the technique, and so on and so forth. Bringing it back to the boat, when we got to choose what type of boat we wanted for our personal fishing. Mm-hmm. I always was type. I said I want a pontoon boat, so it's a grill up on it, got a cooler over here, it's a party part, you know. And Isaac says, no, we need a fishing boat, one that has a big motor so we can get to the fishing spots and this and that. And I'm like, well, who's in a rush? We're fishing. It's no big deal here, you know. Until I found out how the pros did it. And if you want to do it like the pros, you have to have the proper equipment. Mm-hmm. So I had to eat a little crow and not get my pontoon boat and go to a full-blown bass boat, because that's what Isaac wanted. Could have been selfish and got the pontoon boat and forced him to do what I wanted to do.
Sure.
However, now I'm doing what he wants to do.
So I think we should touch briefly, if you're okay with this, on kind of your story, your background, and how you grew up to the success that you are and the success that you see now. It's not something that just popped up out of nowhere. It's this is a journey for you, and you kept mentioning it or referring to it. Now you are afforded these opportunities because of kind of the work that you've put in, and all these years leading up to it. So maybe just, if you're comfortable with it, give us a rundown of your story and what brought you to this point today.
Well, growing up in South Georgia, and I mean deep South Georgia, in a broken home where my parents were divorced, I spent more time with my grandparents. My granddad was a farmer; he was the outdoors person. Mm-hmm. I grew up coon hunting, squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting, anything that had to do with a group of people outside, where it was more of a social event than anything. Mm-hmm. So at 7, 8 years old, I go hang out with the rabbit hunters. They may shoot 5 or 10 rabbits, but at the end of the day, you show up at someone's house, there's chicken on the grill. So it was more about the socializing versus the hunting. And very, very poor. At the time, you didn't know you were poor, because even when you're not poor, you see things that you wish you had. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So back then, you wanted everything. However, you had everything you needed, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So you have those dreams that, well, gosh, if I could ever do this, I could ever afford that, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this for my kids. If someone didn't do this for me, then this is how I'm going to handle it differently. And we handle it the best that we absolutely can. I know there are millions and millions of dads out there in my situation right now who, you don't live with your kids, so whenever you do have that time, you capitalize on it the best way possible. Mm-hmm. And their kids they're not grown people. We have to teach them, I guess, the morals, the values, and the ethics, mm-hmm. while they're under our care. However, they're not here 24/7. So going back to my childhood, that's how I came up. Didn't have a lot, had a lot of dreams, and I think after high school, so I graduated 56 or 57 or 57 or 58. I was very at the very bottom of the class. I think there was one person under me on the high school transcript, and so a lot of people told me, "Well, you'll never go far. You barely graduated high school." I'm like, "Well, but I graduated. So we're good there."
Give me some credit.
Right, absolutely. And I got a call from the Air Force. They say you scored high enough on the ASVAB to join the Air Force. I actually thought they were joking because I thought you had to be really smart to join the Air Force. And but a year later, I was at Robins Air Force Base, Georgia, working on the gates up there, security police officer. And so I did several years in the Air Force, and then later on moved to Montana, cross trained into the Army, and finished out my career as a soldier with the U.S. Army. And at the same time, still pursuing the hunting career. Matter of fact, all the disciplinary action I had throughout my career was because I was trying to be not at guard mount and not in formation because I was hunting somewhere.
Good man.
That's allowable.
Right. So I guess you can look at it several ways. I pursued my passion, but at the same time, I defaulted on my commitment. My fault was my passion, but hey, at the same time, the Army says, "Hey, well, Steph is going to use us to get to the next position," and that's what I did. So I don't regret any of it at all. I'm glad it counted absolutely the way it did. So again, coming back to Isaac, coming back to my responsibility full circle, I wanted to handle my situation with Isaac a lot different than it was handled with me as a child growing up.
Yeah, I think it's important. You always hear guys say it, not to make, that saying's like, you don't want to make the mistakes of your father, whatever however small or large they may be. You always think, as you said, growing up, I'm going to do it different, but it's up to you to actually do it different. Right. You actually have to put your money where your mouth is,
and then try not to swing the pendulum too far the opposite direction. Yeah. Because what I've learned as I've matured and become a father is that I can see now why Dad did the things that he did. Sure. Like it wasn't just, I'm going to do something, to screw up my kid's life or whatever. Like there's reasons behind all this stuff. And yeah, you have a lot more, I think, appreciation for what your parents did and a lot more empathy for the hard decisions that they had to make because you realize, they were dealing with these 5 other factors at the same time.
So while we have you, Jimmie, I think it'd be a mistake if I didn't bring up the season that you and Isaac had last year on the hunting side. We've been talking fishing, but you guys also had a hell of a year on the hunting side. Kind of with the cherry on top was what you killed in Iowa there. You guys bought a farm in Iowa. You kind of documented that whole process, but you went on some Western trips and kind of all over the place.
Right. So a few years ago, I actually moved to Iowa, became an Iowa resident over in the Van Buren County area.